What are your tells? Everyone, I'm Matthew Cornwall with Get Taped here in Atlanta, Georgia, one of Atlanta's original audition taping services, which I co-own with my amazingly talented, beautiful wife and best friend, Brooke. And now, on to our topic. What are your tells? In the world of poker, you can get a leg up on your competition if you get really good at noticing other people's tells. That is, when a player has a good hand, do they always touch their face? Do they shift their posture? When they're bluffing, do they tend to avoid eye contact or clear their throat, etc.? And likewise, a good poker player needs to identify their own tells so they can work to eliminate them. No easy task. Well, as an actor, the equivalent of these tells are the tics, habits, and other routines that you're doing that show up on camera. Now, some of them would only be noticeable to you, your roommate, and maybe your coach. Others are universal and can be spotted in an instant by a casting director watching your performance. So it behooves all of us to become aware of these tells so, like the poker player, we can eliminate them. So what are these tells? Well, a lot of them come from nerves or a lack of preparation, which usually go hand in hand. But the classic one is when you're not too sure of the next line, and so as you are stumbling through it, you give a few rapid blinks. It's immediately noticeable by anyone, especially casting directors, and betrays the fact that you're not that confident about that line of dialogue. It takes you and the audience out of your performance momentarily. It's not a deal breaker, but if it happens time and time again in the same audition and in future auditions, well, that does become a problem. Other actors will add a lot of, filler language that isn't scripted between their lines of dialogue as a way to bridge those lines, because in their brain they're afraid they're going to forget the next line, and so for whatever reason they're afraid of the silence, so they add filler language. Still, other actors will become frozen from the neck down, presumably because some acting teacher told them to just stand on the mark and eliminate all extraneous physicality. And while I don't disagree with that note, when actors take that to the extreme, it looks creepy, because actors will then freeze their body from the neck down, locking eyes with their reader, hoping that all of their emotion will come through in their eyes, when the exact opposite happens and nothing gets conveyed at all. Because here's the kicker. If you aren't grounded in your character from head to toe, then it'll be obvious even in a frame this close. But even when actors aren't nervous, we see patterns of behaviors or tics that, when they show up once, aren't that big of a deal, but when we see them over and over again, they can become problematic. For example, some actors touch their face a lot. And while that might be appropriate for some characters, if the actor does it for every audition, for every character, well, then it's betraying some sort of insecurity or some other thing that is lying beneath the surface that actor should address. Many actors are so unaware of their body and their surroundings. Case in point, they're holding their script because they aren't fully off book, but during the scene, when they're actually not even needing to look at the script, they keep rustling the papers and crinkling them, and they are completely unaware of all the noise that this is making, even when they watch their takes back on the monitor. Blows my mind. Same goes for squeaky shoes or noisy chairs or bracelets or other jewelry hitting like a wooden table that they might have set up in front of them. And now here's the real problem associated with any of these tics or tells or behaviors. And that is, if you're on set and the director, after a take, comes to you and says, "Stop doing that thing," will you be able to make the adjustment in the moment, on the fly, without it affecting your future performance? For instance, I did a commercial eons ago where the director came up to me after a few takes and said, "Hey, Matthew, can you stop gesticulating?" And then he walked away. And then I looked up on my phone, what does gesticulating mean? And it's basically lots of expression with your hands and your arms. And so after hearing that and understanding what it meant, I was able to make that adjustment and move forward. Now, every once in a while, because we did about 1,000 takes that day, I would accidentally start gesticulating again. And then the director would come over and say, "Hey, Matthew, can you stop that?" And I did. So if you got asked after a take to stop blinking so much, or stop shifting your weight constantly from hip to hip, or stop doing that thing with your lip, would you A, even know what the heck they're talking about, and B, be able to make that adjustment on the fly without having to think about it too much, and without it affecting the quality of your performance on that next take? Because even if you're aware of your tells and you've done the work to suppress them, they can creep back in every now and then, like I said with the gesticulating. But if you've done the work previously to identify these tells and be able to suppress them in the moment, then when they do creep back in every now and then, it'll be easy to make that adjustment on the fly and move forward. But if that tell or that tick or that behavior is news to you in the moment, you've never heard anyone say that, well, then that becomes a huge liability, because I guarantee you on that next take, one of two things will happen. Either you'll make no change and do the exact same thing you just did, or you'll be so obsessed over this blinking thing or this gesticulating thing that the director just asked you to stop doing that you will be so focused on that you'll forget everything else and your performance will suffer. And that just ain't good. So what are your tells? If you don't know, then it may be time to jump into an acting class or to hire a coach or to have a trusted professional review some of your self-tapes to help you identify them, if any. And have you had to tackle any of these before, successfully or not? If so, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your stories. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on set.